Hey,
Hello,
honey.
I'm here. We can hear each
Yay.
other.
Yes, we can hear each other. Perfect.
Awesome, awesome. How are you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Oh, oh, it's a whirl.
Yeah.
Um, I am realizing that I updated the wrong presentation. I have like 10 of them. So I'm just like integrating the slides really quickly. Um, that's why I'm slightly distracted, but
No
I did
worries. And
update.
yeah, if you need to turn your camera off and focus for a couple minutes, we've got 5 minutes.
Awesome.
And
Yeah, it's just like a rearranging a few things and then I'm like good to go.
okay.
Yes, I will return momentarily, um, visually, but I am here and ready to
Okay.
go. Hello,
Sounds good.
everyone. Oh, Baltimore, Brandon, all my favorites are
I
here.
know
Hello.
Julian. Oh, and Lori. Well, hello.
Right?
Lori and
Okay,
Julian
I'll be
here.
back in just
Brandon.
a few.
Sorry, we're getting our act together here. Yes. Two-
Nice. I'm
Yeah,
not
I love
alone.
it. I just had an
Hustle.
email from Carly that said you two wouldn't be joining because you're busy. So I'm so excited to see
We're,
you.
we're in another branch. That's why we're sort of
Right.
like sharing a laptop and are
Right.
just going to lean in sometimes if we have to say anything. And
Right, if you see me go like that, it means she shoved me.
never going to
Oh,
happen.
yeah,
never.
Megan looked.
And did I see Francesca's quote got to you?
Yes.
Okay, good.
So that's going to be perfect. Thank you so much.
Sure. Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry I didn't get back to you sooner.
No problem. And yeah, Julie, we need to talk about Maryland.
Yes, Maryland
Conference.
Library Association Conference. Yes.
Yes,
I'm so not worried about it because I
I'm
feel
not
like it's
either.
something we could talk so easily.
We don't need it. It will be. We don't need to worry about it. But yeah, talk about it soon.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What's going on with you, Brandon?
Just in fake spring again. So I
Yeah.
thought we were on the up, but now we're cold again. So
It's cold here. Oh, Marlene's here. Thank you, Marlene. She's fixing the Zoom for me. Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry, I was gonna ignore them. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Kim. Thanks for joining us. We will get started in just a minute. We have Maddie Ildefonso here. Yeah, she's back from Los Angeles Public Library to talk about the successful street vending program. We'll also talk, and anybody's welcome to share updates. These are informal conversations, so feel free to unmute to ask questions or share any updates or things going on at your library. We would love to hear from you. And yeah, we have a few more minutes before we officially get started, but if people want to chat amongst ourselves here, feel free.
All right. Well, it's nice to see some familiar faces.
Yeah.
Hello. Looking at you,
It feels-
Baltimore.
It's good to see you guys. I feel like it's been so long
Yeah.
because it's so weirdly sometimes, yeah, I don't know, lots of meetings.
It's been
Honestly, I
well,
feel
and
like
we had the ELC one last month, so we didn't have an official
Oh, right.
LBB one. Yeah, so it has been some time.
I haven't been in a while, and just all my first observation is like everyone got their hair cut.
Yes, absolutely. Yep, sure.
Everyone looks
I like
different,
that as an observation, Maddie.
right? I feel like my hair has gotten longer because I've just been so busy. I haven't even found the time. But that's okay. Hair grows, we cut it.
That's a way-
Grows,
that's
we
a-
cut it. I've been cutting it myself. It's crazy.
Oh, you are brave. Like, no, thank you.
It looks great. You always
does.
have the
I'm
best bangs.
impressed.
Yeah.
You are kind, and I just during the lockdown part of the pandemic, I bought scissors, so I'm getting used to like manipulating them. I'm due for a real haircut. Believe me, up close, you're like, I'm sure my hairstylist will say something snarky and amusing to me when
Well,
I
that's
finally
what
get
they
back there.
do.
Right. Like I
Yeah.
see you've been attempting this yourself. Good job. And actually just for Megan, but everyone will hear me, but that's fine. But Megan, I I know that this LBB group here is more inclusive, like it's inclusive of not just our group, right? It's like more
Right.
people than
Yeah.
outsiders.
Yeah. Yeah,
Outsiders to the original group, not necessarily
Exactly.
outsiders anymore.
exactly.
Cool.
So yeah, this will be anybody that's joined our Slack got the information about this, our listserv. So yeah, beyond just the people that knew about the successful street vending from the beginning. So if you need to back up and kind of explain where things got started, that might be
Well,
helpful.
that's what the presentation includes. I want to make sure
Excellent.
that I had the right scope when I thought I understood that, and then just feeling like I should confirm. But
Excellent.
yeah, we for our immigration services program, which I'll talk about a little bit in the presentation because this falls on vendor work falls under it. But USCIS sent out like the wrong order for all of our materials that we send to our locations.
Oh,
So usually like to 40 plus locations, they'll get like 5 or 6 boxes. People got 17 to 20 boxes of materials.
oh.
So for those of you, this just happened. So for those of you who are in libraries with small branch locations that don't have a lot of storage space, this is a lot of drama. Good old USCIS is like non-responsive. They're like, oh, it is what it is.
That is a lot of
So
drama.
sorry. It's gonna be an interesting few days as we sort this out.
That's funny. Hey everyone. Hey Adam. Hey Anne. Hey Kim. Hey Arthur. Hey Eva. Jeanette. Jennifer's here. Hey Jennifer. And Ginny. Hey. Emily. Welcome to the Libraries Build Business community discussion. Feel free to say hi either in the chat or you're welcome to unmute yourself. These are super informal, so feel free to unmute or type in chat if you have questions or you want to share updates or things you're working on. We'd love to hear from you. I have a few announcements as well, and then we'll hear from Madeleine Ildefonso from the Los Angeles Public Library today, who will share an update for us about the successful street vending program that LA has been working on as part of, well, initially as part of the Libraries Build Business cohort, so starting in 2020, and they've been able to do some really cool things and continue that work and really launch the program in a cool way. So looking forward to hearing about that. Anybody, before we officially get started, anybody want to say hi or share anything they're working on?
Well, I just have an announcement about our Launchpad event, which is for the 3rd cohort of the New Start program. We do a Launchpad Shark Tank style pitch where we had 6 participants and they get to pitch their business idea to a panel, and they receive some funding. And this time we had 3 winners who will receive funding. So we've got our award ceremony next Thursday, and we'll be presenting them with the checks and putting it on social media. So it's great to have some success stories this round.
That's awesome. Very cool. Hey, Jennifer.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jennifer Bocher, and I am the Brass Programming Committee Chair for the Brass program that's happening up at in Annual. I wanted to get to you before the discount price goes down. But on Monday morning at 9 o'clock, we will be having a program on social entrepreneurship, where we will be having speakers, one public librarian, an academic librarian, and somebody who works with social entrepreneurs, talking about, that even though if it's nonprofit, it's still a business, and those types of questions. And right now we're still formulating the types of questions that we would like to be able to ask our guest, our panel. So if you have any suggestions or if you insights that you like to be able to share, please give those to me so we can incorporate them in the program, or hopefully I'll see most of you there. It will, as far as I know, it will not be recorded, and I'm sorry about that. So hopefully I'll see you there, and give me your questions. We got 2 public librarians, but any other insights will help.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I have some annual updates as well. And I'd love to hear, I know there's a few other people that were accepted to present. Does anybody want to share about what they're presenting at annual?
Sure.
Lori and Carly are presenting something.
Along with Stacy Goddard from Seattle Public Library, I believe.
Spokane.
Spokane.
Spokane. Thank you. Okay,
Okay.
someplace out there. You can tell I've got that East Coast perspective. Yeah, so we're presenting a program called Carly, do you remember what title we gave it? But basically it's about 2 different ways that public libraries can support their small businesses on Small Business Saturday. So, you know, for Baltimore County, we do that with our pop-up shops, which allows vendors to set up in our branches and gives them the opportunity to gain some real life business experience. It's a retail experience. Stacy's is from more of an outward perspective where they work with their local businesses to help drive customers to those bricks and mortar stores. Do you want to?
Lori, when you asked about the title, I just started looking up the official title. So when I find it, I'll put it in the chat for everyone.
Thank you.
Carly held the second class of our Academia de Emprendedores Tuesday night. What is today? Thursday. Yes, Tuesday night. So I don't know, Carly, if you want to say anything about that.
Yeah, the series, so as Julie said, the second class was this Tuesday, but the first class was last Tuesday. So there's 5 classes in this series, and Academia de Emprendedores covers the steps leading up to launching a business. So the first class is on business strategies. The second class is on market research. The third class, which is next week, is on taxes, finances, and record keeping. Week 4 is marketing, and then week 5 is a business plan. And all the classes are taught entirely in Spanish by different partners, including the Latino. Oh wait, that was last year. There's a woman from the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. There's a consultant from the Small Business Development Center. So we replicated our Entrepreneur Academy that we started in 2019. We realized that there's an interest from the Spanish speaking community. So we found new partners to cover the topics and then to replicate Entrepreneur Academy entirely in Spanish. And so the first class, we had 65 people. On Tuesday, we had over 50. So we've maintained most of our participants so far. So 3 more classes to go.
That's so cool. I'm so
Are they
happy
going to get
hear
a
that.
certificate, or what's the incentive for the end?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking. If they attend 4 out of the 5 classes, they do receive a completion certificate. So we take attendance at each class, and then we have a nice certificate at the end with their name on it for those individuals who stayed committed for most of the series. So yes.
Anybody else want to share updates or announcements or just say hi?
I'll share real quick. I got some exciting news. So at the Independence Public Library, we started in January our Beats and Bards Bazaar. It's to highlight our recording studio and our small business center. And we had over 50 people attend our first one, which was really exciting. A lot of like anywhere from high schoolers on up to like senior citizens were participating in the open mic night. And we had 3 vendors sign up, but only 1 was able to show up. 1 caught COVID like the week before. The other one had to deal or had a sick kid, I think. So we only had 1 vendor the first month. Last month we had 2 vendors, and this month we have 4 vendors. So I'm really excited about that. And we have cool little koozies that we're going to be handing out. I don't know if you could see it. We got to make it in our business center, which was really fun. So we're really excited that we have a successful program that promote our resources.
That's awesome. Sounds like it's picking up speed too. And I want one of those koozies.
For sure.
And if anybody wouldn't mind me sharing what's going on with Magic, in May, we have a really exciting series of programs that are going to happen. We're doing our first National Small Business Week. On Monday, we're going to be doing a work outside the box, which is basically come in, do your business, your clerical stuff, whatever you need to do, just answer emails, get out of your regular space and come into the library and get a chance to work with other entrepreneurs. And we have a bunch of different sponsors that are going to be with us on that one. We have 1 Million Cups Prince William. Our Department of Economic Development is partnering with us, as well as Brickyard Co-working Space for that event. On Tuesday, the 2nd, we're doing a business before hours with the Chamber. And we had a couple different businesses in the area offer up prizes for that. So we have one of our local newspapers, Inside Nova, is doing a 1/4-page ad. A local bake, Burke and Herbert, is doing promo packages. And Prince William Chamber of Commerce is offering a space at their next mega networking expo. And on Wednesday, we are partnering with the Mason Small Business Development Center and putting on a program called Value Proposition Design. And both Burke and Herbert and Chamber of Commerce offered prizes for that we'll pull at the end of that program. And on Thursday, we have, we're going to wrap up the week with a small business panel where we are having Ramaz Al-Bagadar of Riri Designs, which is a full service event decorating firm, Brian Taborja of Lux Labs, which is a hair salon that specializes in color and precision cutting. And then Casey Ma of The Hungry Typewriter, which is a copywriting house that helps small business owners. And they're going to get together and basically tell anecdotes about how they got started and answer any questions that any attendees have for them. We're also going to be handing out a prize at the end of that program. Keepsakes Photo Booth of Prince William County has partnered with us, and they are offering a professional business photo session.
Wow, that sounds awesome.
So we're really excited that this has gotten as big as it's gotten so quickly, and I cannot wait to see how this turns out and how much it benefits our small business community in Prince William County.
That's really cool. Yeah, keep us in the loop. Share any photos or anything like that with us on Slack. That sounds cool.
Absolutely.
Anybody else want to share an update before I go into my announcements? Okay, well, thanks everyone for being here today. We talked a little bit about ALA Annual already. I want to create sort of a calendar of all of the business related programs that we know about. There's a number of people in this group that will be presenting, which is so exciting. And we're also, so Libraries Build Business and Brass and Libs Work are co-hosting a happy hour. Details to come, but that should be Saturday night of the conference, probably like in the Loop downtown. Yeah, that's all I know so far. But if you're going to be at conference, come say hi on Saturday and get to know some of the people in this group that maybe you've just known virtually for the last year or so or longer. So looking forward to that. And if you are from Chicago or you know Chicago pretty well and you have suggestions, let me know. That would be super helpful. So that's annual. Believe it or not, the PLA 2024 is open and accepting submissions. That's going to be in Columbus, Ohio in spring 2024. I think the submissions just opened and they stay open through May 1st. So if you like PLA, you have something cool to pitch that you didn't get to pitch for annual conference, consider PLA. And I can send that info. I'll post it on the Slack as well. We have the Entrepreneurship and Libraries Pitch Competition coming up in May, the ELC, and there is still time to submit for that through the end of next week, March 24th. The info is on Slack. I can send that out around again as well. But basically, any public, academic, special library can pitch and can submit for a pitch, and the top prize is $4,000 to use towards implementing a new program or service in your business program. So I definitely encourage people to check that out and submit something. I think the selected libraries are supposed to hear back in early April. So you'll have time to prepare your pitch and then pitch on May 4th in front of the judges. So it should be a lot of fun. Even if you decide not to submit a pitch, plan on attending May 4th as an audience member, just to hear what cool stuff people are doing. And we're also looking for mentors or coaches to work with those 5 libraries that pitch. And so the coaches would work with the libraries after the pitch competition. So for after May 4th, you'd be assigned, if you choose to be a mentor, you'd be assigned to work with one of the pitch competition winners to help them implement their program. So maybe offer 3-ish peer learning kind of one-to-one support sessions on Zoom or by phone. And somebody had asked me if you can submit a pitch and be a mentor, and the answer is yes. So if you have an experience mentoring, I think some of you had a great experience with the Libraries Built Business Coaching Program, and you liked mentoring and you want to do it again for some of the pitch winners, you can, and that does not prohibit your library from also submitting to the competition. So let me know if you have questions about that, but would love to have some of you that have more established programs would be great mentors for people that are implementing new services or programs. So keep that in mind. And then the last thing I have in terms of announcements. So in April for our meeting, we'll be doing a training with, some of you know Audrey Barbakoff she used to be with the King County Library in Washington. She wrote a chapter for the Libraries Built Business book. She is helping us create a dissemination toolkit for libraries to use to talk with various audiences about their business programs. So to talk about business support organizations, business support organizations, to your small businesses and entrepreneurs, to elected officials and community leaders, and to other library staff. So we'll have like a whole series of tools, including like PowerPoint presentations and talking points, handouts, that kind of thing, that you can use to kind of get the word out about your business program. So Audrey will be here next month at our monthly meeting to kind of train us on that messaging and how to use some of the tools, and especially with some of the audiences that might be intimidating to some of us, like talking with elected officials or community leaders, kind of going over some of the tips for that. So that's April. Mark your calendar. Hope to see everyone there. And I think that's all my announcements. Anybody, last call for announcements or updates, and then I'll pass it to Maddie. Okay, Maddie, I think it's all you.
Yeah, it's all me. Okay, cool. I was just saying hello to my colleague I see here. Hello, Monica. I was like, wait a minute. Anyway, so we are here today, and I'm going to see if I can share my screen appropriately. And it's not giving me that option to do what I want to do. That is strange. Let me close out everything else. All right. Let's see, we'll try this again. I'm not having good luck with that.
Is it an issue with
reading
Zoom?
my? Yeah, I
Do
don't
I
know why
need
it's
to make
having.
you a host or anything?
Well, it's not showing my tab to slide share, so it's weird. Normally I feel like I can just slide show it. But let me try this again. I'm sorry, everyone. All right, there it is. I don't know what was going on. It's popped up now, so here we go. All right. Cool. All right, so a bunch of you here already know me, so sorry for repeating myself. Maybe you've forgotten all about me and all the work that we did over here for LBB. So I'll just remind you of a bunch of things. So my name is Madeleine Ildefonso. I'm a managing librarian at the Office of Civics and Community Services at the Los Angeles Public Library. I am celebrating my 19th year with the City of LA. I've been in this office for about 6 years. So just briefly about Los Angeles Public Library. We serve, I think it's approximately 4.1 million people. I guess it doesn't sound so approximate, but I feel like there's some approximately in there. We have 72 branch locations plus the central library. We have an operating budget of 241 million, and we are celebrating our 150 years in action as a library just this past December 22. So we are doing lots of celebratory things here in LA. And my office manages our New Americans Initiative, which is providing high-level in-person services for immigrants. They can schedule appointments online. Frequently, people just leave us messages and we make them appointments. We have been increasing our access to lots of different resources, which includes the work we did with LBB. But the work primarily grew out of something that started as citizenship corners, which a lot of libraries have all over the country. And it grew to something much bigger. So we have New American Centers and we have New Americans Welcome Stations, which contain USCIS materials, which I mentioned earlier, just drop shipped to en masse to many locations in our library system. But this way people can access materials easily, both informational and then ones that they use in immigration processes. Since the program's inception in 2012, we have conducted more than 10,936 service and citizenship programs. We have assisted almost 80,000 applicants. And you can see here our tiny list of the phone calls we get, the appointments we've made. And so the appointments are really just since 2018. Since we didn't do that before 2018. So we are pretty busy here in the Office of Civics and Community Services. This is just a comprehensive list of the work that we do, or I'm sorry, the work that our contractors do in our New American Centers. And this is the work that we manage. And here is our language accessibility. And now we are going into our LBD work. So when you're talking, we attend a lot of programs and information center sessions and partner meetings in Los Angeles with basically all of the CBOs, nonprofits that work to support immigrants in the city of LA. And what we learn in these meetings is that there are several pillars of immigrant integration and inclusion. And so it's warmth of welcome, economic mobility, and citizenship. And so we work in all of those aspects as part of our New Americans Initiative. And this specific piece of the New Americans Initiative, or this specific thing for Libraries Build Business, really supports economic mobility for street vendors. So I think it was back in 2018, the state of California legalized street vending. And what happened after that is that cities then instituted processes to allow vendors to become legal business owners. And so that process requires a lot of permits and it's a lot of like 3 different permits. If you're selling food, a public health permit, like public food safety permit. So there are a lot of different things that you need to do to become a legal business owner. And for a lot of people who are vendors in the city of Los Angeles, they are primarily monolingual Spanish speakers and lack multiple literacies. So you may be working with people who do have high school diplomas from different Latin American countries, but then you'll also, be working with a lot of people who left school at a very young age to work. and then eventually landed in the United States. And so selling food and selling products on the street is probably the most common and easiest way that anyone new anywhere gets started in life. And so when cities and municipalities develop these processes, they're not often working with work units that center the needs of the community that they're intending to serve. So as part of the work that we did with the Libraries Built Business Grant is we wanted to develop resources that would help give the vendors, that would basically give them a sense of agency in a process where their expertise and their own knowledge of what they do is frequently marginalized, or it is marginalized. So, but it was a long process that we did to get here. So this is kind of a high level overview of what we ended up doing. And so we created mobile learning resources. So it's mobile micro lessons via CellEd, which is the vendor that we worked with. And the units are in English and Spanish. The units are accessible with a library card via smart and flip phones, but as long as you have the code to access CellEd, you don't really need a library card. So we encourage that though. They are micro enterprise units. There are digital literacy units that are connected and community safety learning units. And all of the products that we developed are vendor and community sourced and tested. And those are our websites. So initially when we started this work, we were really focused in discussion about what might be possible and hoping the processes that the city imposes on vendors to become legal business owners. We were hoping that we could think about how we might simplify that process or bring some high level information to vendors in a more accessible format. And we kind of went in circles because it's not quite it wasn't quite landing where we wanted to work with the vendors. And these are really complex processes that require that, might even change. In fact, one of them is already changing. So it's really challenging to kind of think about changing or making other people's work more accessible, right? So other municipal units, other, state entities, like vendors have to get a state selling permit. That's not any process that we have a hand in, right? We don't necessarily have any influence over how that works at the state level. So after a lot of talking, we decided that it was really more important to take a step back and really just connect with the vendors themselves, because our earlier conversations about this work were primarily with partners that we had met over time, going to all the immigration, integration, and inclusion, immigrant inclusion meetings that we attend, and trying to figure out how we could better support vendors. So once we kind of said, let's take a step back from what we thought we might do and see where we should, what we should be doing, we ended up with a much better product, and one that I feel always 100% confident in talking about how impactful it is for the people it's intended to serve. So we worked with the grant. We basically hired the vendors as consultants, and they worked alongside LAPL and the nonprofits to develop the units that really helped give them a better grounding and understanding basic business concepts, things like budgeting. And those aren't things that they normally, I mean, I'm certain, and we did have feedback that some vendors are like, yes, I budget, but there are a lot of people who just do it as they go, and they didn't really have, formalized business plans or, putting things in spreadsheets and things like that. They're still using like notebooks and things that they can use on the go. So I kind of just touched on that, but we revised. And in terms of the grant, there were lots of changes, additions. We looked for more partners. We expanded the types of courses, which I'll touch on in a future slide, of what we were going to offer vendors. We did a lot of testing with vendors and the pandemic, this all happened during the pandemic lockdown. So there was a lot of, fortunately, I mean, I don't know, time is a weird thing during the lockdown part of the pandemic, but we ended up, it didn't feel like it took a long time, but I think it took a lot longer than we thought. And I didn't map that out for this slideshow, but we're basically working on that for about a year and a half, I think. It's what it feels like. So we soft launched in the fall of 22. And these are things that we're still talking about here, which is scalability, messaging, presentation, and access. So sustainability actually is not, that's something to consider, but that's not something that we have a problem with here. And we kept that in mind when we were making our plan in terms of working with the primary vendor called CellEd. CellEd is a great partner, but they're not inexpensive. And fortunately, because they already are a city vendor and work with our adult literacy program, it's very easy for us to pay for additional licenses that we needed to work with street vendors. So CellEd, and that's primarily how they work when you create the content. I paid them through the grant to create the content. And then we used, also we bought licenses for people to access the content. So anywhere that CellEd works, people need to have a code. And that's the equivalent of like the license to interact with all of their products. So in terms of messaging, like that's something that I think it's a challenge for a lot of different libraries in lots of different places, is when there's an overall public message about how your institution is anchored in literacy, it's really imposing for people who may not feel like they belong in an institution that is anchored in literacy because they are not readers or they can't read. And so I think Los Angeles Public Library has done a really great job over many years of both, doing more work to increase our language access with multiple communities and multiple modalities. So, people can listen to things and they can, enroll in some of our adult literacy programs, and that can help improve their reading skills, because a lot of people know that they will be able to advance their own goals when they are able to read, or like citizenship, when they can access citizenship. But it's really tricky, I think, for messaging to access populations which may have limited literacy, including digital literacy, which is a primary way that we communicate what we do to the public. So we know already from our New Americans work that what we do travels word of mouth best. So that's one of the things that we're hoping to capitalize on. We are actually in the planning stage for our first piloted vendor workshop, where we're going to talk about doing things like learning circles with vendors focused on the CellEd product, in addition to pulling in other partners. So it's kind of like a resource fair. And I think that once we are able to conduct more activities like this, the word of mouth will start traveling. And I think that will help us with scalability and access as well. So, for example, we have our website devoted to this, our landing page devoted to this, and it's fully translated. But like I said, it's a lot of words. And so for people who aren't, it's almost, we had a meeting last week where we were talking with some partners. And I said, to be truthful, the website, the landing page is really, and the intended audience isn't exactly vendors. It's the partners who support vendors and it's staff. So, coming back to doing in-person activities, which now we're finally able to do more of in our facilities. I think that will be how the word spreads best among vendors about the great products that we developed. And so this is just a quick list of some of our partners. And when we worked on our community safety units, we actually ended up working with a social worker and a group called Latinx Therapy. So, community safety is really it's connected to a digital literacy for vendors because cash is king and cash makes them vulnerable. So, we think a lot about, can you use different types of apps? And there, not a lot of people are on board with that yet, but they're learning. Part of the discussions that we had was that they're learning it's safer. But we surfaced a lot of these topics in our conversations about community safety. And so we, the specific units in SALED, which you'll see listed in a bit, one of them is bystander intervention, and the other one is just like we call it community safety, but it's basically like how they can watch out for each other safely. So, this was developed with their input, and because they kept reliving their trauma, so, of like what they experience on the street, we felt strongly that they should be able to also access people who can help them process that. And those are skills that we wanted to also integrate into the units to kind of address some of those things that come up when you're constantly exposed to things that aren't in your control and who can make your personal safety feel vulnerable. One thing that we weren't able to address in the project, but something that we did learn from working with vendors a lot, is that there are a lot of moms who are vendors who bring their kids with them because they can't afford to not work, but they also can't afford to put their kids in daycare anywhere. So they're out in the streets with their kids, and often they'll congregate with other women for safety, and also so their kids have like other kids to hang out with while they're at work with their mom. But these are very real things that people are experiencing in terms of like what they see on the streets. So we wanted to keep a lot of different aspects that were important to the vendors in mind when we were talking about developing things to support them, and that included their mental health. So the work for libraries build business. So there's a section called overview and permits, which was referenced in the slide that was a screen cap of the website. But it covers, this is like the really complex information that mostly vendors will work with somebody at one of our business source centers in the city. So, how they get their sidewalk and park vending permit, California seller's permit, their business tax registration certificate, which they need to do business in the city of Los Angeles. And there are lots of really minute rules, like you have to be 20 inches from a fire hydrant and 3 feet from a tree, and you can't block this and you can't block that. And so all of those are valid rules in the city, but vendors can feel penalized by some of the rules that don't make sense to them when they're out doing the work that they do. So that's something that came up a lot, and that's not things that we can really change. But we did try to talk about things like developing like a culture of community care. Like lots of vendors are from places where they don't have, like an ADA, like the ADA Act. And so, blocking sidewalks isn't a problem because nobody's there to advocate for people who need clearance to access places. So we did talk about those things, but we didn't really address them in our content. But you can see how complex and layered it is. And we left that to the experts who are doing this with the vendors. But we wanted to make sure that we were doing something to share this information. So we worked with, in the city of LA, there's, it's called Streets LA now, but it used to be called the Bureau of Street Services. And they're actually the unit that manages what they call the education and enforcement for street vendors. So it's a little strange for an outsider to that work unit to understand, but what they do is they put the people who are enforcing the rules in charge of educating as well. So that means that BSS or Streets LA, however you call them, they both give tickets to vendors for not following the rules, and they're also supposed to tell them what the rules are by way of flyers and workshops. So, you can never have enough redundancy in this space. with a community like vendors. There are probably 50,000 plus vendors in the city of LA. So we have all of the information, that complex information, it's all recorded in English and in Spanish, so people can listen to it. And we encourage this because even if they can't remember everything or they don't understand, you know, all of the concepts, just because they're new to them and kind of like, what's this? You know, they have a better understanding when they go and meet with the people who will walk them through step by step, you know, filling out forms and things like that. So these are recorded and they're all on our landing page. The Sell-It pathways are all free. They are 3-minute courses. You can see what they say there. And then there's coaching by phone available. And they can also do it on WhatsApp, which is really popular. And it's very easy for people to use. And so basically, these were the things that surfaced in our focus group meetings with the vendors. So these are the units, the micro learning units we created, all are targeted for these learning outcomes. And this is a list of all of our courses. So you can see we have cashless systems of pay, we have making a budget, pricing items, like how do I price my items now that I have to pay taxes? So our work unit about taxes, it's not literally telling you how you pay your taxes, but it is talking about like what taxes are and why we pay them, and you know how you think about taxes when it comes to your business. It refers people who need to get an ITIN to the appropriate agencies that need to get an ITIN. So Sell-It's really great with that, because once they get to that part of the learning, they can get a push notification that lets them know where they can get an ITIN, which is what a business owner might get from the IRS if they are unable to, if they don't have a social security number. And then of course, it was really great. Because the state of California paid for a number of digital skills units for anyone to use, we were able to incorporate them into the work that we were already doing. So all of these, like how to use apps, what's, you know, using the internet, how to create an email address, that was all made part of our program from the state. And then we have an FAQ page, so you can see this is the individual taxpayer identification number. I just referenced the ITIN, but just some FAQs, and they're also in English and in Spanish. And I did want to say that we just were getting our latest statistics, and you know, like I mentioned, we've had a very soft launch because we've been kind of slow to build our in-person services back for this particular type of activity in the library system. So we're getting that going, and I'm super excited. We've had about 112 vendors enroll, but that's pretty exciting. And even more exciting, I just learned that we have almost 4,700 people who have enrolled in these courses nationally. So that was pretty cool to learn too. So because Sell-It exists in so many different places, even internationally, but these units are available to anyone who has a Sell-Ed license or code in the United States. So we don't normally get the quarterly reports for their national enrollment. So I was really thrilled to see that. And I'm really confident that our numbers will increase here once we start doing the in-person workshops. And that concludes my presentation. And are there any questions?
Have
Okay, you see some yays. So thank you, yay.
It's just amazing what, I mean, because so many things are just, you know, vague entrepreneur, but you found the focus. Is this replacing any other active, you know, programming that you're doing, business programming that you're doing, or is this supplementing it? And how are you balancing all of those needs?
So we're really lucky at LAPL because we're such a big institution. There's more than one work unit doing this like business entrepreneurship type of work. Because my work unit is hyper-focused on services to immigrants, this really sits squarely in that space. And not that we have a department at our central library, business and economics department, and they do lots of workshops and activities for small business owners, and they have for many years. And they also do things in Spanish as well, but they're a little, I would say they're a little bit broader. And sometimes, you know, they can be focused as well, but we have the opportunity to be really focused with this work, and just to kind of run with working with the population that generally I think is really underserved, because it's my personal opinion that most library resources are not built for people who live in big cities who lack literacies. And so, you know, as good stewards of public funds, we're always trying to promote the resources that we purchase with our city money. And those are useful for a lot of people in our municipalities, but they're not as useful for the people who I think lean on our libraries the hardest. And those are people who have no other place to go. And we see that in our immigration services. People who come to the library for immigration service really feel like all of their doors are shut. And so I think that one of the things that we wanted to do in working with immigrants, and kind of how we started looking at not just providing immigration services, but some support, we call them support services. And I noted them a little bit. We have, like, you know, transactional business attorney that people, you know, like if they have a different type of business, they can work with them. We have different support services because not everyone can naturalize. So, you know, while all of our immigration services are affirmative, because these are paid for with city dollars, there are lots of people who have they don't have any immigration remedy. They're not going to be able to do anything. They're stuck, but they're living here. And if they, you know, they can be business owners here. They don't have to be citizens. And I'm sure you all know that Los Angeles is extremely immigrant friendly. You know, I can't remember the number in my head of people who are undocumented or not naturalized who are living here, or who are legal permanent residents who just choose not to naturalize for a variety of reasons. Could be cost, could be lack of interest, could be that you know, it's things are fine the way they are. So we try to promote, you know, becoming a citizen because it is easier. It makes your life a whole lot easier. But for people who that isn't a resource, we didn't want them to walk away without any hope to continue to contribute to their families or to build, because every vendor we worked with wanted to build more. Every vendor we worked with wanted to learn English. Every vendor we were working with was wanting to, like, I want to be in a food truck. I want to own a brick and mortar. I want to take this to a next level. And so I think that helping them, like, where they are is really valid. And I was really excited. They were so excited to be able to like be heard, because they were like, what? You want to hear what we think? And we're like, yes, we do. So I think it was a really cool project for us in that way, because I don't think we always ask our constituents. We talk a lot about getting our constituent feedback, but I don't know, like, if we're always empowered to act on it in a way that's like that transactional.
How did you manage the turf war between the small business office in the library and what you were doing with your programming?
I don't know if I managed it awesome. I think that, you know, I sent a lot of mea culpa emails. And I was really transparent, you know, and we had started this, including that department from the beginning. But when we received the grant, like a week later, we were shut down. COVID.
Because of COVID or because of policy or politics?
COVID.
Oh.
So, you know, or 2 weeks later, like, the city was shut down. So, like, everyone had different priorities, and, you know, we just started moving. And once we kind of had a better handle on what we were doing, and as I said, like, in terms of how we work, it aligns really with the work that we do in my work unit very specifically. And, we'll continue, because it's like Central Library is, and Monica can give me feedback later if I'm like explaining things maybe in a way that she sees too. But like Central Library serves the surrounding community and can do large events, but really our branch locations are where there's a lot of these vendors who are popping in and out, and that's not necessarily like the same audience. Like Central, the way my office looks at Central is that it's just another branch in some ways, and so we weren't looking to mimic or repeat or do activities that they are already doing. And they can always still work with all of the business source centers in Los Angeles, which are in a different city work unit, who have come in from time to time to do programming in the library, in our business department. So like, I think that, to be honest, I think that the manager there was a little frustrated with me, and that's okay, and I apologized. And, we had started with the intention of moving forward with them, and it just didn't kind of move forward like that. The person we were supposed to work with was retired like halfway through the pandemic. I mean, it's just kind of like one of those, like it's all over. And we redesigned the entire project from the beginning of the pitch of the grant. And in that redesign, it really kind of focused the work more in our work unit and less with the other work unit. And at the end of the day, we're all here to serve people, and we've all hugged and made up, so it's fine. But yeah, it's interesting that you you were like, "Was there a turf war?" And I was like, "It was a turf war," but I think there were some hurt feelings, and it was unintentional. And we move on. We're here to work and serve the communities. So, and we meet more often now. If that's a great outcome. Anyone had any other questions? And I do. Oh, Rosalind.
Hi. So I'm in Southern Oregon, which is about as different as you can get from greater Los Angeles. But I'm
Yeah.
very intrigued by this program because we have a large farm worker population. They're spread out all over the county, all over the farms. It's a huge county. Do you think this program would be useful for farm workers, many of whom are trying to make some money on the side because farm work is not great, who are trying to get out of that? What do you think?
I think there are lots of, I would imagine that you would want to have some partners.
Oh, yes,
To
absolutely.
do things like to support the work. And in terms of CELED, it's if they are a vendor, if they can be a vendor of your library system, then you can use the licenses that you buy from them to distribute to people. And I can certainly like meet with you so you can kind of review the content and look at it in a more minutia oriented space. Right. But I think that and CELED actually may have more data from the people who have enrolled from all over the country. Essentially, if you have a license, you can log in. There could be also other places in Oregon who have access to that. I don't know if CELED is at other libraries in Oregon.
Not that I know of. I did do a demo with CELED, and
okay.
Just like the brief overview and to get their pricing. And they seem unfazed when I say not a lot of these places have broadband access. But a lot of people do have flip phones, but there's not always cell coverage.
Yeah, CELED is flip phone. Like you can use it on a flip phone. I found them to be like a really responsive partner to work with. In terms of the units, I think that there are other business basics. Like we have some that are specific to sales, how to sell, like, I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous. I don't know why I'm nervous with you guys. I'm not remembering everything, but, there's like how to budget. There are some basics there that I think like how to price items, safety on streets, which I don't know is like, or community safety. our push notifications are specific to LA, but those aren't the push notifications that go out to other places.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I think that like I can meet with you and you can learn more about the units that we have. You know, there also could be a possibility to work with your state library to look at, you know, the underserved agricultural workers in Oregon in general, that don't have access to library resources or learning resources because of they're not in the library, they're out doing stuff. And that was something we wanted to be mindful of too, is like, these are people who don't have leisure culture
Right.
as a group of people who are focused, you know, they're up at 3 a.m. to go get supplies, they're making things, they're cooking things, and then they're going to sell things, and then they're getting home to their children, and then they're feeding everybody, and then they're starting all over again. So
Yeah.
where is their time to go to the library when they're already trying to squeeze in all of the things that they're already trying to do?
Exactly.
So
Yeah, and I mean, we have rural branches, but they have pretty limited hours. And if you are not, like you said, these are folks who don't think of the library as a resource if that hasn't been their pattern in the past. So that's why I'm really interested in reaching out to them with something that would help them right away advance themselves. Anyway, it's very generous of you to offer to meet with me, and I'm totally taking you up on that later.
sure. I also know your state librarian, so I can totally pull her into the conversation.
Okay.
I'll be like, Wendy, let's go. Not that she can act on anything I suggest, but and before does anyone else have any other questions? I know we're running out of time, and I don't mean to be such a long-winded person. I just am.
Cell Ed is the platform. Have you thought of other platforms, like going away from them, that license, and just doing like, you know, YouTube videos and just promoting them on the library's website to get away from that environment?
I don't think we got that far, and part of what's nice about working with Cell Ed is that there is like a bit of learning there, and that was a value that was expressed by the vendors. So we didn't want to impose learning, so that's why there's units in Spanish, but the English that's there, it's like, I didn't mention this, but it's like at a 3rd grade level. So they can learn in Spanish, they can try in English. There's customer service unit is in English for language learners. I think that if I had a much larger budget, there could be something, you know, something that's on YouTube. But also that might be the work of like a whole team of people, because as far as I know about production, it's very hard to live in LA and like feel like you can just throw something out on YouTube when you have like when you live in Hollywood. You're like, oh, what's the production value up here? You know, do we want to look like a public institution that's trying, or do we do something that's like high level? But it's a great idea, and I think, you know, it eliminates the expense of because Cell Ed is not cheap. But I would say they do good work, and they are easy for people who do have limited literacies to work with, especially digital literacy. But YouTube, I know, is very accessible. And I wanted to shout out to New Jersey because I saw Newark here, and I was like, yay! I grew up in New Jersey, so I'm always happy to like see New Jersey anywhere. Anyway, any other questions? Because I believe we're like close to time. When I got my New Jersey shout out in, so I'm happy. All right. Cool. Well, if anyone, I mean, I think I don't check Slack all the time. I will try to go back in the fold. But if anyone has any questions, and you need my email, you can get it from Megan, or if it's not visible to you, I'm always around. And I really love talking about this program. So
Thank you so much, Maddie. It was so great to hear.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you everyone for coming. Come back next month. Like I said, we'll be talking about some tools that you can use to message your program to different audiences. Love to see you then. Thanks again, Maddie. It was so inspiring to hear how everything's come together. It's really cool. I dropped the exit ticket in the chat a minute ago. I'll put it in there again. Just any feedback you have about today or anything you want to see going forward, including if you'd like to be our main speaker or facilitate a conversation, I would love that. Let me know. And otherwise, have a great rest of your week. Thanks for coming.